am Denise Ortiz, a senior consultant here at 4Lane. We're going to discuss template modifications today, and I will do my best to answer any of those questions at the end. If we do run out of time, I will get back to you with those solutions. Some of the topics that we will cover today are going to be the template types, creating new templates, editing templates, and using the import-export functionality for templates. So I will switch over here and go into my QuickBooks file. So in order to get to the templates list, we'll come up to list and then templates. By default, when we start a new file, QuickBooks will have some default templates already installed for you. Some of the types that we will see will be an invoice type, a credit memo type, sales receipt, purchase order, statement, estimate, sales order, payment receipt, and a bill payment. Those are the default types that will come with your QuickBooks file. We'll also see that we can also get packing slips, pick lists, and work orders also as a default template. Just note that they are sales order types in the end as a background default. Well, you'll also note here that what is not included in QuickBooks does not use as a template are bills or item receipts. We cannot create any customized templates for those type of transactions. A couple of things that I like to do, because sometimes they can be a long list, and if you're constantly kind of creating new templates, etc., kind of being organized with your template list might help you out. What I tend to do is I will inactivate some of these templates that I may not be using. For example, maybe this invoice from proposal, I'll just inactivate it by right-clicking and making the template inactive. I, by default, generally do not delete the default templates that QuickBooks provides. Just for in the end, if I'm constantly creating new templates and something goes crazy with it, it becomes a bad template, I can always go back to the start and grab one of the default ones that QuickBooks has enabled. Some of the other ways that I also kind of organize my list is if I'm creating custom templates, I can number them. So what I would do, like this estimate, for example, if I right-click and edit this, I can change the name and I would add a number 1 to the beginning and maybe the company name and what that template is for. What this is good for, I did it for a couple of them, an estimate, I did it for a sales order and an invoice. What I can do then is come here to the title and sort through them, and then the custom ones will fall to the top. Just some little tidbits that you might find useful in organizing this list. So now we can kind of come in here and create a new template. So a couple of ways that we can create a new template. We come to the very bottom left corner, the templates button, come here to the new button, and it'll pop up a list of our template options. So from here, I can choose a specific template type that I want to create a new copy of. So say for this instance, I can say new estimate. Okay. And I'll come back to kind of using these modifications in here as well. I'll circle back. Okay. Another way that we can also create a new template, say I created this customized template and I want to use it over and over, maybe for a sales order, or you're doing it for a couple of different estimate templates that you're creating. If I highlight or click on one of the templates that I already customized, I can come down to the bottom left corner of templates, and then I can create a duplicate of that. It'll copy that same formatting over into this form without me having to basically recreate the wheel or recreate that form. So from here, I can option to have it create just either an additional sales order, or I can have it create that invoice type. And we can see what'll happen is it will add the word copy in front of that customized label that you have created for that template. So that's kind of creating some new ones. Now let's get into kind of the hot and heavy of editing our templates. So I'll kind of stick with our Anafia estimate here. So to make some edits, I can come into right click and edit the template. I can double click to open it up, or thirdly, down at the bottom left corner, I can come in and edit that as well. So we're always going to start out with this basic customization first. So from here, this is where we're going to provide it that customized name, manage templates, and then we can override whatever that name is. So maybe this one, I'll call it 1.5 estimate, Anafia estimate for the webinar. So now I have that name signified for this one. What we can also add to our templates is our logo. So you can select the logos. They do use JPEGs, PNGs, your usual types for image extensions that QuickBooks will use on your logos. Some other things that we can customize here, they do provide coloring. So if you, by default, it comes with this kind of white and grayish kind of coloring scheme. If we wanted to, we can choose different colors for that. And this is how it would print. As long as you have that color printer, it would also print as the PDF in these color schemes as well. I can choose the green, and then I can apply the color scheme. And then we can change it to green. If I want it to maroon, I can change it to maroon. Okay. Some of the other things that we can customize on here as well. If I have my title, I can change the font respective to those title rows, the title rows here on our columns. I have a variety of fonts to choose from, whether I want a bold, italic, and then larger or smaller font size. I can, excuse me, I can even change the color of the font as well. So kind of really getting down and customizing to your needs. So titles can be one font and color. Company name can be a different color, font number, address. Each of these sections that we see on the form can be unique to itself. The other information that we can include or exclude on our template here at this area is including the company name, company address. If I wanted to choose the phone number, I can add that in here, or the email address. I can add that in here as well. And as you see, when I added these on, it dropped it down to the bottom. I'll kind of circle back on how we can move these up to the top area if that's where we wanted them preferred. Now, if I needed to update my company information, it had the wrong address. Maybe we moved, or it was a different email that we wanted associated with it. This is coming from the company menu option here at the top, and then my company. And it's going to be the contact information. This is where it's looking at. So at this point, I can modify any of these fields to then populate onto our template form. Okay, so once we're happy, we named our customized template, made it the color that we like, added some of that additional like header information. Now we're satisfied. Now we can come in through here and kind of edit the next section, the header section. So if I click this additional customization button, now we can get down to modifying it even further. So we have a couple of tabs. We have the header tab, we have the columns tab, we have a footer tab, and then we have a print tab. So the header tab, this is going to modify this top area of the form above the detailed transaction lines. What we also have, we can have the option of screen or print. Say we have this information at the header and it's more of an internal workflow. who placed the order, when is expected ship date, etc. Maybe things that internally you need to see and have onto my transaction. So I can choose my print information. So I can add the ship to on my screen that when I'm entering in the transaction. Or alternately, I can have it where I want it to print. This would be what the end user is going to see on their PDF or the printout copy. So I can have one or the other, or I can have both. What I can also add on here as well is I can change the name of the information. So my title by default is called an estimate because I chose the estimate type. I can change this to be quote, and that would be the title. As we see here, now it changed to quote. One thing to note, so by default, it will come with some of these predefined fields from our customer or vendor profile, the ship to, the project, the due date, the rep, etc. If there's additional information, maybe we need a custom field to populate for our screen or our printout, we can add that. So if it's for a invoice, estimate, sales order, the customer side, we would come into the customer profile and create a custom field. So I'm going to close this out. So if I come to my customer center, and say I will just double click my first customer here, I will add in the additional information tab a custom field. That is what's going to show on the header or top section of your form. So I would define the field, add my custom field, new field here, and it's going to be used on the customer. And then we would decide how do you want it to be, free form text, dates, times, or drop list. You can find more information on our other 4Lane YouTube channels for additional information on custom fields. So once I add that custom field here, I can come back to my template and double click to start modifying it again. Additional customization tab. Now on my header, I can see my custom field here, and I have the choice to add it just on the screen, or if I wanted to choose to also have it print. Our next area of the form that we can customize is our columns. This is going to be the detailed transaction of our lines, our item information. So we have, by default, it comes with those predefined fields from the item profile, your item, your description, manufacturer's part number, etc. And we can do the same things, see it on the screen, or alternately, if we wanted to also print out to our end user. I can change the column or the title descriptions here. So for example, this one says quantity, we just have QTY. I can also modify that title name here as well. And when I show you the preview, it'll show you a little bit bigger. And as well, I can also adjust and modify the order of our columns. That's what these numbers represent here. So I can have, right now we have class as being column 1, and then followed by the item column is number 2, description 3, etc. So say I wanted to have my item as being the first column to start entering in data. I would just remove the 2, add the number 1, and then just go into my next field to update that modification. So right now we just have it where the item's just on the screen, but it's not being printed to our end customer. Maybe just description needs to be printed out to the form to my customer. So we can modify the column order. Kind of similar to our header area, that if one of these default fields is being used for its respective use, but we need additional information to either provide on our transaction for viewing or reporting purposes, or maybe out to our end customer, I can create custom fields. Now, these custom fields would happen at the item profile level. So let me show you that real quick. So if I come to my list, my item list, and I will just double click to edit any one of these items, my custom field. So I have some predefined here. I have a service date, a serial number, and a color. And we will see them on our template. Double click to edit, additional customize, and my columns. So this is where my custom fields are coming from. So I can choose to include those on my screen, or if I needed to choose them to be printed on the form. The other area that we can customize is the footer section. This is going to be the bottom section underneath all the transaction details. I can have a customer message, and it would be titled customer message, or I can change the title of that field to what would make more sense for you. It can be on the screen where your team enters it in, and it can be also printed for your customers viewing. We'll have the totals column. We can also include a signature line on the form as well. Now we have a problem because we have some overlapping fields on here. That's because I'm at the footer. It's going to add it here, but I have my email and my website information on here. So it's going to look like it's going to overlap. If I hit continue, it's kind of going to shrink things up. This is where when we circle back to Layout Designer, where we can really move things around. The other area that we can add more information to is this text box here at the bottom. Okay, at this text box here, I can add, any free form text. This may be useful if you're adding like some kind of guarantee or disclosures specifically onto your estimates or your invoices. That's where this information will come on to. The next area that we can slightly modify is going to be our print area. So I can use this print settings for just this estimate, or use a specific printer setting for just this specific template itself. A couple of choices, whether we want it portrait or landscape, how many copies do we want it to default to make copies of, do we want it, if it's multiple pages, we only want to show a total at the last page, or do we want to have print numbers printed on the, say if you have multiple pages, you can have the page numbers printed. And then if we want any trailing zeros added to our numbers. A couple of choices, not too many, but a few there if we need them. One thing to note now, these are going to be your default tabs on just about every template, whether it's a sales order, purchase order, a sales order, sales receipt, etc. You're going to have the same tabs, except one temp type will have an extra tab. I'm going to close these out. If I look at my invoice, my Anafia invoice, double click to edit, customize, I will see I have an additional call or additional tab here. What this tab is for is when we're converting those sales orders into invoices, and we want to include on screen, and super helpful if we want to show also for our end user, what was ordered on our sales order, what was previously invoiced on our sales order, what was back ordered, and then also including the sales order number field. That would be super helpful on the screen significantly. So we can toggle back and see what sales order that one is linked to. Now we can also include it if we wanted to on the printout copy. At this point, we have to kind of start considering how much information are we going to add on to our template printed out. because it will start getting a little squishy with our columns. Okay. So right now, without doing any really significant modification, this is what our preview would look like for our invoice. So we have our item code, our quantity, unit of measure, etc. So this will be the invoice printout. I'm going to come back to our estimate that we were adding all those additional fields on. And let's take a look at what this looks like now that we added a lot more fields. Okay, so in here we have our quantity, we have our signature line, we have our email and our phone number. Cool. All right, so that would be some of the information that we can add for columns and the header section. Now let's look at the layout designer. The layout designer is kind of where a lot of the action happens as well. This is where we can really start modifying and moving things around. So we have, when I click in any one of these areas, we get bounding boxes. So with these bounding boxes, I can do a couple of things. I can make it smaller or make it larger. I could make it smaller if I needed to. I can even click and hold and drag it. Maybe I want the quote to be more in the middle. Maybe I can also click and drag more fields. I click on the date and the estimate title and its respective data fields. All I'm doing is clicking and holding my shift down. I can take and move these around in a group. So as we saw down below, we had our emails down here. So if I click the email title box and its data field, I can drag it up to the top if I wanted to. I can make it a little bit smaller if I needed to, etc. So this is where you're kind of going to start moving things around. I can also modify the column sizes, make them bigger, make them smaller by just clicking and dragging, moving them around. Once I get that four-sided arrow, I can modify my columns as such. Some of the other things that we can do to kind of modify this even further, say I have my quote here. Once I click on my quote field, I have my properties box highlighted and available for me to choose. If I double click the property box, it's saying a quote field. I can justify where do I want my text to lie, right, left, or centered, vertically, top, bottom, or center. I can adjust the font, the size, the style, the color. I can add a border around the whole perimeter of that text box. I can make a rounded corners. I can make bigger or more dotted lines for my border. So more customizing here to make it really unique. And as well as in the background, I can have where this box is going to be not filled with any shading or fill it in with a specific color. So now I can fill it in. So we can really hone in and customize this to how you want it to look. A couple of other cool things before we run out of time is going to be, I have this option to add a box. So I can add a text box, freeform data here, do the same thing, align it, put a border on it, put a background color on it. And it's just going to be a free-form text just on this field. And I can even grab that bounding box, my left mouse button, and move it around. A couple other ones, the data field. These are data fields. So since this is an estimate, these are the fields coming from your customer profile card that I can also include in on my form as well. A couple other things, I can add an image. I can also copy this same field and then make several copies of it if I needed to. I can remove them And there's also an undo button as well. Zooming in and out, I can zoom in on the area. And then to move up and down, I would use my scroll bar to move up and down within here. So this is where you can kind of hone in and truly customize it to what you need. I'm going to cancel from here. And once I'm happy with my layout, I can save it by saying OK. And then in the end, once we have it all customized and we save, we can duplicate this said template. Like I said earlier, grab it, I can duplicate it, make it now maybe a sales order if I needed to. So I don't have to redo all of that work. Another cool feature that we can do is import and export. So if I am creating templates for my clients, or I'm building a new file, I will build the brand new template in a clean file. And then I can export this simply by clicking on it, coming down to my bottom button, and I can click the export button and then save it in a respective folder where I know I can find it. And when I'm ready to bring that over, and I can email that to my client, and then I can have them import that into their now QuickBooks file. Simply the same way they would be in their template list, click the bottom button to import, and then I can search for that specific template, double click or click and open, and then it will bring it over into my new file in here. And it brings it in as a copy of. Okay, so that's one way to import and export. One thing to note on the import and export is if you are working with the client and doing any new files for them, I would suggest creating brand new templates in a clean file, as we have found that if we export templates from a corrupt file, it can bring that corruption into the new file that you're building. So always kind of be wary of anything that you're importing, exporting from a corrupt file. It can trail over. So I hope you did find some valuable nuggets of information today, and you start kind of modifying and creating some great looking templates for your customers. So today we went over the types, created new types, edited templates, and then went through the import-export functionality. And I would also like to thank you for attending today's webinar. Have a great day.